Whenever you're ready, Mr. Maloney.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Colin Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
My whole life.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton with?
I live with my mother, my father, and my two brothers.
And your mother and your father, what are their names?
Julie and Chris Albert.
And your brothers, what are their names?
Chris and Dylan Albert.
And as far as within the age of you and your two brothers, where do you fall in that?
I am the middle child.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 20 years old.
And do you work? Do you go to school?
I go to school at Bridgewater State.
And what year are you in?
I am going into my junior year.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th and to January 29th of 2020. Do you recall those days?
Yes.
Do you recall what days of the week they were?
I do not.
Do you recall whether it was weekday, weekend?
Weekend.
And turning your attention to the evening of January 28th, do you recall where you went that night?
Yes, I do.
And just to be clear, around that time, were you in college? Were you in high school? What grade were you in?
I was a senior in high school.
So end of January, you would have been about 4 months away or so from graduation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, where did you, at some point, did you leave your home and go out?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall about what time it was that you went out?
I do not remember.
Do you recall whether it was light or dark when you went out?
It was dark.
And where did you, upon leaving your house, where did you go?
I went to one of my buddy's houses.
And that buddy, what was his
name? Mike.
And where does Mike live in relation to you?
Can you rephrase that?
Does Mike live in Canton as well?
Yes, he does.
And about how far is it from your house to Mike's house?
About like 7-8 minutes.
And when you got to Mike's house, was it just you and Mike, or who, if anyone else, was there?
I do not remember who was there.
Was there more than just the two of you?
Yes.
And generally speaking, when you got to Mike's house, what is it that you did when you got there?
I do not remember.
Now, as far as how you got from your house to Mike's house, do you recall how you got there?
No, I do not remember.
Let me ask you this. Did you walk? Did you drive? Did you get a ride?
I got a ride.
Do you recall who you got a ride from?
No.
And when you, do you recall, let me ask you this. As far as that particular night that you went out, did you drink any alcoholic beverages while you were out?
Yes.
And did you drink any of those at Mike's house?
Yes.
And do you recall generally what you were drinking that night?
Bud Light.
And when you were at Mike's house on that particular evening, do you recall about how long you were there for?
A few hours.
And do you recall how much you had to drink while you were at Mike's house?
I do not remember.
And so in reference to you going out and going over Mike's house and having some beers over there, is that why you didn't drive?
Yes.
So you got a ride from someone over to Mike's house, you spent some hours there, and then do you recall where you went from there?
I went to my uncle's house.
And fair to say you have a relatively large extended family within Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when you say you went to your uncle's house, which uncle's house did you go to?
My Uncle Brian.
And that would be same last name as yourself, so Brian Albert?
Yes.
And how is he your uncle, sort of how is he related to you?
He is my father's brother.
And why did you go to your uncle's house that night?
It was my cousin Brian's birthday, so I went over to celebrate for a little bit with him.
And so that would be Brian Albert Jr., is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you know how old your cousin Brian Albert Jr. was turning on that night?
I do not know.
Do you recall how you got from Mike's house to your uncle's house?
I believe Allie McCabe.
And do you know the address as far as your uncle's house?
34 Fairview Road.
Is that somewhere, your family's house, is that somewhere that you had been before?
Yes.
And so your memory is that Allie McCabe gave you a ride from Mike's house to the house on Fairview?
From what I remember, yes.
Now, Allie McCabe, as far as who is that to you? Or what, if any, kind of relationship you have with Allie McCabe?
It is my cousin's cousin. So not technically my cousin, but we're close and like we do family events and stuff like that together.
And you and Miss McCabe, are you in the same grade?
Yes.
And how long have you known each other?
My whole entire life.
So not blood related, but someone that you see at family events.
Yes.
And someone that was in the same grade and went to the same school as you?
Correct.
And that school, which school did you go to at that time?
Canton High School.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived at the house on Fairview?
Between 10:30 and 11 at night.
And did you have at that time any kind of curfew or time that you had to be home from your parents?
Usually around like right around before midnight.
And so was it like a hard fast, like 12 o'clock, if you're not here, you're grounded, or was it sort of around that time?
Just around midnight.
And so after, when you arrive there, you go into the house, is that right?
Yes.
And the house at 34 Fairview has a couple of different ways to get in the house in the front, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you recall which way that you went in that evening?
The side door near the garage.
And when you come into the house, where did you go within the house? What room did you go into?
The living room.
And then from the living room, where else did you go within the house?
Like the kitchen area.
And within the kitchen area of the house, who, if anyone else, was present in the kitchen?
From what I remember, my cousin Brian, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson, and Catherine Duty, from what I remember that night.
Is it possible there were other people there that you just don't recall?
Yes.
And where were they situated sort of in the kitchen dining room area?
Like sitting around the kitchen table, I would say.
Now, after you arrived there, when you arrived there, what is it that they were doing when you walked in?
Just listening to music and having a couple of drinks.
And you come in, you greet people, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the other people that you talked about, as far as beyond your cousin Brian Albert Jr., did you know those other people?
I knew of them. I wasn't friends with them or anything.
Fair to say they were older than you were, is that correct?
Correct.
So, like Miss Levinson would have been older than you by at least a few years at that point.
Yes.
And same with reference to, I believe you said Miss Fabiano and Miss Duty, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, when you arrive at the house, did you have any other drinks once you got there?
Yes.
And do you recall what, if anything, you drank once you got there?
Bud Light.
So same as you were having before?
Correct.
You know how many that you had while you were at 34 Fairview?
I do not remember.
And over the course of the evening, whether it was at Mike's house or in between, or when you got to 34 Fairview, did you feel yourself as far as like overly intoxicated or drunk or anything like that?
No.
And as far as the other people that you observed at the house that night, does anybody stick out to you as being overly intoxicated or fall down drunk or anything like that?
No.
Now, with reference to when you came into the house, you mentioned there was music playing. How would you describe sort of the general mood within the house?
It was happy. It was, yeah.
Now, as far as that area where you first observed the people around the table in the kitchen dining room area when you came in, did you ever see anybody else go anywhere else in the house?
Not that I remember.
Did you yourself go anywhere else in the house?
No.
At any point in time in the evening while you were there, did you go upstairs or downstairs in the basement or out in the backyard or anywhere else besides the kitchen dining room area?
No.
Beyond maybe the restroom at some point?
Yeah. Other than that, no.
And about how long were you at your uncle's house that night to celebrate your cousin's birthday?
Probably around like an hour and a half.
And so about what time would it have been that you left?
12:10.
And with respect to your leaving the house, who, if anyone, did you contact to facilitate?
Rephrase.
Let me ask it in a much easier, better way. Okay. As far as your plans were concerned, as far as leaving the house, who, if anyone, did you reach out to get a ride from the house?
My friend Allie McCabe.
And how did you reach out to her?
I texted her.
And do you recall whether or not you had any sort of other communication? Well, let me step back and ask it this way. At that point in time, in January of 2022, you had Ms. McCabe's information saved as a contact in your phone, is that correct?
Correct.
And on prior occasions, had you had a chance to, call that number from your cell phone that you had programmed in as Allie McCabe?
Correct.
And when you called that number, who, if anyone, answered the phone?
Allie.
Now, with respect to text communications, had you had text communications with that contact in your phone as Allie McCabe prior to that date of January 28th?
Yes.
And when you had those conversations, did you then also have subsequent sort of in-person conversations with Allie McCabe as well?
Yes.
And during those in-person conversations, was there any reference or anything talked about the content that had been previously sent and communicated via text?
No.
Let me ask it in a better way. So you would have text communications with the person you put in as a contact as Allie McCabe, correct?
Yes.
And then subsequent to having those text communications, you would then speak to her either in person or over the phone, correct?
Objection.
The objection is sustained. Watch the form of your questions.
Following those text communications with the person that you had input in your phone, what, if any, verbal conversations would you have in reference to the content of the text?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Did you talk to her in person about something you had talked to her about in text?
No.
Now, with reference on that specific date of January 28th, was text communications the only means by which you communicated with Allie McCabe?
From what I remember, yeah.
And were there other means by which you would typically communicate with her?
If she wasn't answering a text, I'd give her a call. Yeah.
And were there apps or anything like that on your phone that you would communicate with her as well?
Snapchat sometimes.
Now, with respect to Snapchat and your family, specifically your cousins, what, if any, sort of group Snapchat chains were there with respect to your family?
Yes.
And specifically, who were those sort of group Snapchat chains? Who was included within them?
I have a Snapchat group chat with my cousins.
And you have cousins on basically your father's side and your mother's side, correct?
Not on my mother's side, no.
You have no cousins on your mother's side?
No.
And with respect to the cousins on your father's side, would it be all of your cousins that were included within that?
Not all of them, no.
And so who of your cousins would be included on those kind of group Snapchat chains?
My older brother, Chris, my younger brother, Dylan, my cousin, Kevin, Brian, Brendan, Caitlin, Kayla, and I believe that is it.
And if you recall, was there any communication on that group Snapchat chain in regard to Brian Jr.'s birthday on that date of January 28th or 29th?
No, not that I remember.
Now, with respect, so you reach out to Ms. McCabe via text, is that correct?
Yes.
And she agrees to pick you up?
Yes.
And at some point, are you made aware that she's at the home?
Yes.
And how is it that she makes you aware that she's at the home?
I got a text message from her that says I'm here.
And at any point in time while you were in the home, did Ms. McCabe come inside the home?
No.
And so after you received that text message from Ms. McCabe, did you respond?
Yes.
And do you recall what you responded?
Come in.
And from that communication, after you sent that, about how long was it between the time that you sent that and the time that you came out?
Between 30 seconds and a minute, I'd say.
And when you came out of the house, do you recall which door you came out at that point?
The side door next to the garage.
And when you came out that door, who, if anyone, did you encounter as you were coming out?
As I was walking out, I saw my Uncle Brian and my Aunt Nicole.
And you were going out, and what were they doing?
They were coming in.
And in addition to your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, was there anybody else that you recall that was with them when they came into the house?
No, not that I remember.
And what, if any, exchange did you have with your uncle and your aunt as you were going out and they were coming?
I just said, I'm going home. My mom wants me home. I love you guys. Bye.
And you then went outside of the house, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you see Ms. McCabe outside?
Yes.
And where was she where was her vehicle in relation to the house?
In the driveway.
Now, do you recall what type of vehicle Ms. McCabe was driving on that particular night or had at that time?
I believe it was the blue Ford that they had.
And was that a sedan? Was that an SUV? What type of vehicle was it?
A sedan.
And so you come out, that's in the driveway, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether or not it was parked on the left side or the right side of the driveway?
I do not remember.
And you get into the vehicle. Which part of the vehicle did you get into?
That I do not remember.
Front seat, passenger side. Does that sound right?
Could have been that, yeah.
Do you recall whether or not there was anybody else in the vehicle at the time that you got in?
I do not remember that.
Do you recall whether or not there was anybody else in the vehicle at the time that she had dropped you off at that location?
I do not remember that either.
Now, as far as the coming outside of the house, did you take note of anything as far as the weather or what was going on with that when you came outside?
Pretty sure it just started snowing at that time, around that time.
So the snow had just begun. Do you recall whether or not it was sticking or accumulating on the ground at that time?
I do not remember, no.
Now, you get into the car, and where did you go?
She drove me right home.
So no stops along the way, just straight from Fairview to your house.
Correct.
And about how long a drive is it?
Anywhere between 5-10 minutes.
Now, as you were outside of the house walking to the car and after the car sort of backs out of the driveway and leaves, did you observe anything abnormal or unusual outside of your uncle's house that night?
No.
Did you observe any other cars outside at that time?
Not that I remember.
Now, Allie has a mother and a father, and you're familiar with them, is that correct?
Correct.
And what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt.
Same last name as McCabe.
Yes.
And are you familiar with what types of vehicles they have?
Yes.
And when you came out of the house and got into Allie's Ford sedan, did you see any vehicle you would associate with either Jennifer or Matthew McCabe at the house at that time?
No.
And so you drive home and you go to your house without the address. Whereabouts within the town of Canton were you living at that point?
It's right in the center of Canton near the Seasons gas station.
And is that a single-family house or a multi-family house, or what is it?
It is a condominium.
And when Mr. K pulls in and parks, you get out, correct?
Yes.
And so in order to get into the building, in order to get into your home, how is it that you get into your home when you get to the condo?
There's a door around back that I go into, and I gotta either have a key or they buzz me in, but I usually have a key, and I gotta go up 3 flights of stairs, and then we're at the top level in the condominium.
And so you have to get sort of into the building before you can get into your own unit.
Correct.
And did you notice whether or not Ms. McCabe was still there as you were, excuse me, did you notice whether or not Ms. McCabe was still out there parked when you opened the door with the key?
That I do not remember.
And you get into the condo, or you get into your home, and who, if anyone, was living with you at that time?
My parents and my little brother.
Your older brother, where was he?
In San Diego.
He was in the service, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as your brother, your little brother, and your father and your mother, were they home when you got home?
Yes,
And how do you know that?
because I remember my parents being up in their bedroom that night.
Is there any sort of rule or sort of, for lack of a better term, a protocol as far as when you come home, where do you go sort of first thing when you walk in?
I always tell my mom and my dad that I'm home and usually go up to their bedroom, give them a hug goodnight, tell them I love them, and then go down to bed.
And did you do that on that occasion?
Yes,
So sort of immediately when you come home, you go right up to your parents' room?
yes,
And when you got up to your parents' room on that particular evening, was both your mother and your father in their room?
correct.
And you had that sort of exchange that you described before?
Yes,
And so your bedroom is then located downstairs from where your parents' bedroom is?
yes.
And if you know about what time was it that you came into the house?
I want to say around 12:20.
And fair to say this is 2.5 years ago and you weren't exactly looking at your watch when you came in, is that right?
Exactly, yes.
And as far as being home or having that curfew around midnight or so, did you get in trouble for being late that night?
No,
Objection.
I'll sustain the objection. I'll strike that.
Now, Mr. Albert, the place that you were living at that point in the condo, how long had you been living there?
that I do not remember.
Did you live somewhere else in Canton prior to?
Yes,
Where was it that you lived?
7 Meadows Ave.
And how long did you live at 7 Meadows?
My whole entire life before moving to that condo.
And so all I'm sort of trying to ascertain here is, so from the time of January 28, 29, 2022, was it a long time, short time, months, weeks, years? How long had you been living at the condo?
Short time, I'd say a couple months.
And so prior to that couple of months, you had lived your whole life at 7 Meadows Ave, correct?
Correct.
And that was a single-family house, is that correct?
Yes,
And with respect to living on Meadows Ave, did you know people that lived on your street growing up?
yes,
And at some point while you were living there, did you come to know someone by the name of John O'Keefe?
yes.
And how did you know Mr. O'Keefe?
He lived at the top of our street.
So how many houses, if you know, were sort of in between your house and Mr. O'Keefe's?
2.
And do you know how long that Mr. O'Keefe had been living on that street?
I do not know.
And how did you know him, sort of, if you could describe sort of your relationship with your neighbor, Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew him because I knew that my parents were friendly with him. And I knew he lived at the top of our street. That's how I knew him.
And were you aware who, if anyone, lived at the house with Mr. O'Keefe?
I know his 2 kids that he brought in, adopted, lived there, and I'm not sure who else.
And that would have been his niece and his nephew that he adopted, correct?
Correct.
And where were they in relation to you as far as ages were concerned?
A lot younger. I don't know the exact age difference, but
So you were in high school, they would have been some grade far below.
yes.
Now, as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, your neighbor, about how often would it be that you would see him?
Not often. I'd drive by every now and then. He'd be outside and I would wave. He'd wave back. That was pretty much it.
And during the time that you lived on Meadows Ave, or a couple months subsequent to that, was there ever any animosity or any sort of arguments or anything that you had ever had with Mr. O'Keefe?
Never.
And how would you describe Mr. O'Keefe from your perspective, as far as how would you describe him as a person?
A nice guy, a good guy.
Now, with respect to, if I could bring you back to Fairview Road on January 28th and 29th of 2022. Obviously, you were familiar with Mr. O'Keefe at that point.
Yes.
And at any point in time that you were in that home, did you see Mr. O'Keefe inside the home?
No.
At any point in time that you were outside of the home, going in, coming out, at any point in time did you see Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
at any point in time on the evening of January 28th into January 29th, 2022, did you see Mr. O'Keefe anywhere?
No.
And at that time, at end of January 2022, were you aware of or did you know anybody by the name of Karen?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
I knew that she dated Mr. O'Keefe.
And had you had any sort of prior interactions with Ms. Reed prior to January 28th?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you know what she looked like?
Not really.
As far as any interactions, would that be just sort of driving by the house?
Yeah. Maybe drive by, wave. That was about it.
I may have one moment.
Yes.
Now, as far as that sort of reaching out to Ms. McCabe on that particular evening, was that something that you had done before?
Yeah.
Is that something that sort of you and your friend group did together, as far as if somebody was out and driving around and somebody else was maybe drinking somewhere, they could contact them for a ride?
Yes, correct.
That was as opposed to somebody drinking and then getting behind the wheel and driving, correct?
Exactly.
Now, sir, at some point in July of 2023, did you have occasion to meet with any troopers from the state police in regard to that evening of January 28th to 29th?
Say the date again.
Some point in July of 2023, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
No.
At some point subsequent to that date of January 28th, 29th, did you meet with any troopers from the state police?
Yes.
And you were asked questions and you answered them, is that correct?
Correct.
And following that conversation or interview that you had with troopers from the state police, what, if anything, did you provide them with reference to your phone?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry.
At some point, did you provide them with a screenshot of a text communication between yourself and Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
And was that something that you took a screenshot on your own phone and then were able to then provide it to them?
Correct.
Now, may I approach?
Yes.
So showing you a document, just ask you to look at it and then look up when you finish. And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
My text messages between Allie that night.
And what's contained on that, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you recall as far as the text messages, what was on your phone as far as what you took a screenshot of the text messages between you and Allie McCabe that night?
Yes, sir.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm off the seat to introduce in a minute.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, one moment.
Sure.
No objection. Thank you.
All right. And jurors, remember the instruction I gave you about the text messages. Thank you. Okay.
Exhibit 84.
No, may I approach just to return to the
Yes.
witness? With the court's permission, may I publish this for the jury?
Okay.
Sir, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as Exhibit 84?
Yes.
And the contact that's listed at the top states out, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that how you had Ms. McCabe programmed into your phone?
Correct.
And from this, there's two sets of communications, one containing blue bubbles and one containing non-blue bubbles, correct?
Yes.
If you know the blue bubbles, is that you or is that Ms. McCabe or who's?
That's me.
So the other side would be Ms. McCabe, is that correct?
Correct.
There's also times that are stamped or associated with these text bubbles and with the text communications from Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
And if I could direct your attention, and maybe easier if you're looking at the paper in front of you, but just sort of starting from the top, January 28, 2022, if you could read for the jury what the content is, what the time is, and indicate who is communicating.
At 11:54, I texted Allie and said, "You can get me now, period." At 11:54, I texted her again and said, "If easier." At 11:55, Allie texted me back and said, "Okay, I am driving people home now." At 11:55, I said, "Word." And then at 11:55, I said, "Get me after." At 11:55, Allie wrote back, "KK." And then at 12:10 a.m., Allie wrote, "Here." And at 12:10 a.m., I wrote back, "Okay."
Ms. Gilman, you can take that. And Your Honor, may I approach this to retrieve the exhibit?
Yes.
Now, sir, with respect to that last communication that you sent as far as okay, how long after that message was sent did you then go out to the car where Allie was?
Right after, I'd say around 30 seconds.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
Sir, I'm going to be showing you what's been marked as exhibits 82 and 83. Again, I just asked you to take a look at those and look up on your And do you recognize those, sir?
Yep.
And what do you recognize those?
Say that again.
What is in those photos?
A picture of me and my aunt and a picture of me by myself.
And do you recall sort of when those photographs were taken?
Yes, February 11th.
And why is it that you recall that, well, let me ask you this. As far as February 11th was concerned, where were you that evening?
I was at my uncle's house.
And why were you at your uncle's house on that evening?
My cousin was coming home for leave from the Marine Corps, so we had a little gathering for him.
And just to be clear, when you say your uncle, you're talking about your Uncle Brian Albert again?
Correct.
Your cousin that was coming home from the Marines, what's his name?
Jack Albert.
And so on that evening, you were over that house, is that correct?
Correct.
And the first picture in exhibit, I believe it's 82, is that correct? You and your Aunt Nicole?
Correct.
And what's contained on there, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of sort of what you looked like as far as your arms, your hands, your face, all of those things on that date of February 11th?
Correct.
And the second photograph is again you by yourself, is that correct?
Correct.
And from that photograph again, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you looked like on February 11th?
Yes.
And from the second photograph in, if you know, where was that taken within the home of your uncle?
In the library at 34 Fairview.
And again, that library or any of the other rooms within the house beyond the kitchen, the dining room, or possibly the restroom, did you go into any other areas of the house on that night of January 28th into January 29th?
No.
I approach this retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yep.
One moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Albert, just one last question. When it came to your arrival at 34 Fairview Road on the evening of or the early morning of January 29th when you were leaving. Beyond your Uncle Brian and your Aunt Nicole, did you see anybody else older than yourself or anybody else related to that group come into the house that evening?
No.
Thanks. I have nothing further.
Mr. Jackson, do you want to begin or wait until the morning?
No, it probably makes more sense to wait till tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Sheldon, I'm going to wait until the jury.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Robert. Mr. Albert, who did you talk to in order to prepare for your testimony starting yesterday?
Can you rephrase that question, please?
Phrase the question. You didn't understand my question?
No.
Okay. Who did you speak to in order to prepare for your testimony yesterday?
My lawyer.
Other than your lawyer, who did you speak to prepare for your testimony yesterday?
No one.
You didn't speak to your parents?
No.
You didn't speak to your mom, your dad?
Nope.
At any time before yesterday about your testimony or your statements?
Nope.
Did you discuss with your parents their testimony?
No.
So after they got off the witness stand, your dad didn't come home and say, here's how my day went?
No.
Your mom didn't come home and say, here's how my day went?
Nope.
The Albert family just ignored the fact that both of them testified in a court of law before a jury about the events of January 29th, 2022. Nothing was ever said?
No.
Did you talk to Mr. Lally at any point before yesterday in preparation for your testimony?
Before yesterday, you said?
Correct.
Yes.
Tell me when.
Want to say a month ago about.
What did you talk about?
I got prepped for this.
Tell me what that means. What does it mean to prep for this?
What I'm going to be getting asked.
Okay. Remember my first question, very first question this morning? I said, have you spoken to anybody in order to prepare for your testimony? And you said no.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not true. You spoke with Mr. Lally.
Okay. Yes.
It's not okay. It's yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. You said that was about a month ago, correct?
Correct. Around a month ago.
Tell me what, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Around a month ago. That's it.
Tell me what you and Mr. Lally discussed.
The questions I would be asked here.
Can you be more detailed?
I don't remember everything he said.
Did he go over the questions that he believed he would ask?
I believe so.
Did you give him answers to those questions that you believed you would give in response to his questions?
Yes.
What questions did he tell you he was going to ask?
I don't remember.
What answers did you tell him you were going to give?
I don't remember.
That was just a month ago, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you've been thinking about this case quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah.
Over the last 2.5 years.
No.
How long have you been thinking about this case?
Since people started writing about me on the internet.
How about since you were at a house where an individual ended up dead on the lawn the next morning? Did that prompt you to start thinking about this case?
No.
Not so much, huh?
Nope.
Did you speak with, when Mr. Lally spoke with you, who else was there?
The witness advocate, I believe, and
Steve Nelson?
yes.
Who else?
And is it Sergeant Tully, I believe?
Tully, T-U-L-L-Y?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Not that I remember.
Sergeant Tully taking notes while you were having this conversation with Mr. Lally?
I do not remember.
Mr. Lally taking notes?
I do not remember.
Do you remember being told by either Sergeant Tully or Mr. Lally that your conversation was being recorded?
I do not remember.
How long was that meeting?
Say 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Were you given any instructions by either Sergeant Tully or Mr. Lally about your preparation for your testimony?
Can you rephrase that, please?
Sure. Did they give you any instructions about the preparation for your testimony? How they wanted you to answer questions? The tone
No.
and tenor of your testimony?
No.
How they wanted you to dress, for instance?
No.
Other than that time a month ago, have you spoken with Mr. Lally or anybody from the DA's office since then, before yesterday?
No.
You watched any coverage of this case online?
Nope.
No social media?
No, I don't have social media.
No news, coverage?
Nope.
Nightly news, Channel 25, Channel 5?
No.
National news?
Nope.
Blogs?
Nope.
So literally, according to you, you know zero about the media coverage concerning this case, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Correct.
Did you talk to Allie before her testimony?
No.
When was the last time you did talk to Allie before she testified yesterday?
I don't remember.
Give me an idea. She's one of your best friends. A week ago, a day ago, a month ago.
I do not remember.
Could it have been a year ago?
I do not remember.
Could have been 5 years ago.
No.
Okay. So it's more recently than 5 years ago that you spoke with Allie.
I don't remember.
Okay. So you have no independent recollection as you sit here. The last time you talked to one of your best friends and your cousin about any subject.
No, I don't remember.
Were you ever told in preparation for your testimony, if you start to get stumped or nervous, just say, I don't remember?
Nope.
Nobody ever told you that?
Mm-mm. No.
Is that no?
No. Sorry.
It's okay. So nobody ever informed you that you might get nervous on the witness stand, there might be tough questions. The easiest way to get out of that is just say, yeah, I don't recall.
No.
So you just don't recall because your memory is that bad. You literally don't recall the last time you spoke with Cal.
Objection.
Ask that differently, Mr.
Sure.
Jackson.
Sure. Your testimony is you were not instructed to say, I don't remember. You just literally don't remember.
Correct.
It's an issue with your memory, not an instruction that you received. Correct. Right. But you do remember 2.5 years ago, you left 34 Fairview at 12:10 a.m., correct? Down to the minute.
Correct.
Got it. Did Mr. Lally, during this meeting that y'all had, did Mr. Lally show you anything? Items of evidence, photographs, videos, anything like that?
No.
Did you two talk about any evidence that you might see? Photographs, documents, videos?
Not that I remember.
He didn't show you the series of text messages between you and Miss McCabe, Allie?
I don't remember.
Okay, so you're not saying he didn't, you're just saying, again, you just don't remember.
Correct.
Okay. And this was just a month ago.
Around a month. Correct.
Could have been sooner than a month. Or, let me ask that a different way. Could have been more recently than a month.
I don't know.
Don't know that either.
Mm-mm.
Is that no?
Yeah, no.
So, Mr. Albert, you have to answer yes or no, not just,
All right, sorry.
Where were you when this meeting a month ago took place?
At the DA's office on Shawmut Road.
Who contacted you to come to the DA's office?
I do not remember that.
Don't remember that either.
No.
Phone call from Mr. Lally, maybe?
I don't believe that I received a phone call. Maybe my lawyer did or my father, but I don't know. I don't believe I did.
So if your father received a phone call and then told you you need to go to the DA's office to meet Mr. Lally, that would be a conversation with your dad about your preparation for your testimony, correct?
I wouldn't say so, no.
You would categorize that as such.
No.
Okay. Because, of course, even though you went to the DA's office to meet Mr. Lally and a sergeant from the Massachusetts State Police to talk about your testimony, you didn't mention that to your dad.
No.
Didn't mention that to your mom.
No.
And when you got done with that meeting, Dad didn't ask you, how'd it go, son?
Nope.
Your mom didn't say, How was that meeting
No.
about this massive murder case?
Objection.
Let me ask it a different way. Do you consider this to be a high-profile murder case?
Objection.
Sustained on relevancy, ask it differently.
In your mind, this is an important case, correct? Obviously.
Correct.
But according to you, it just never comes up in the Albert household.
No.
Okay. You were asked to look at a couple of text messages yesterday. Looked a little bit like this. Have you seen that before?
Yes.
When did you see that before?
Yesterday?
Before yesterday? Had you ever seen that before?
On my phone, yeah.
Okay, other than on your phone when you made the screenshot, had you ever seen that before? Mr. Lally ever show it to you?
Not that I remember, no.
So you two didn't discuss that in your meeting a month or less ago?
We could have. I don't remember.
But again, you don't remember? Is that no?
No.
Did Mr. Lally tell you why he wanted to question you about those text messages?
I don't remember.
Did Mr. Lally tell you anything about what you might be asked on cross-examination?
No.
Did he ask you about any videos that you've ever posted?
No.
Did he ask you about any comments you've ever made online?
Nope.
Any photos you've ever been in?
No.
Any fights you've ever been in?
Nope.
Who's Courtney Proctor?
She's friendly with my aunt, Jillian.
I'm sorry?
My aunt Jillian, she's friendly with.
When you say friendly with, describe that. What do you mean by friendly with?
I know that they're pretty friendly.
Have you ever been to Courtney Proctor's home?
Yes.
How many times would you say over the years?
4 or 5, maybe.
Her family is close to your family, it's fair to say.
Not that close. Close though.
When you say not that close, but close though, what does that mean?
I'd say we were more close when I was younger, not when I got older.
Okay. How old are you now? You're 20?
Correct.
May I approach?
Okay.
I have a photo I'd like to show Mr. Lally first. May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at that photo and tell me if you recognize it. Just look at it to yourself, please. Let me know if after you studied it for a second.
Yep.
Do you recognize the photo?
Yes.
Who's in that photo?
Objection.
So the objection sustained as to the content of the photos. Did you want to come to sidebar and explain this to me?
Mr. Albert, approximately when was that photograph taken?
Objection.
No, we can get that, but we'll answer that question.
Ten years or less ago, I'd say. I don't.
You were the ring bearer in Courtney Proctor's wedding, were you not?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Correct.
So when you say we're friendly, but not that, or we're close rather, but not that close, you were actually close enough to be a member of her wedding party when she was married to her now husband, correct?
When I was younger, correct.
Well, of course it was when you were younger. It was 10 years ago. Is that yes?
Yeah.
That's my question. So for at least a decade, your family and the Proctor family has been close enough such that you and Albert were in her wedding, correct?
Objection.
Ask that differently, Mr. Jackson.
For the last, well, at least at that time, 10 years ago, your family was close enough to the Proctor family such that you were a ring bearer in Courtney Proctor's wedding, right?
Correct.
And who's Courtney Proctor's brother?
Michael Proctor.
And is Michael Proctor in the photograph that you're looking at?
Yes.
The person on the far left
Correct.
looks like he's in a tuxedo.
Correct.
You were also in a tuxedo.
Objection.
Sustained.
What I'm getting at is you all were part of the same wedding party, correct?
Correct.
And that's a photograph of Courtney Proctor's wedding and the entire wedding party, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Is that a photograph of a wedding party?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Albert, I want you to look at that one more time. Both you and Michael Proctor are depicted in the photograph, correct?
Correct.
How long have you known Michael Proctor?
Since I was a little kid.
And you've known him well enough to know, I don't want you to tell me or tell the jurors, but you know where he lives.
Yeah.
You consider the Proctor family close to your family.
Yeah.
During the course of, for instance, just as an example, during the course of this event, joyous event at a wedding, you actually sat at the head table along with the Proctor family because you were given the honor of being the ring bearer in Courtney's wedding, correct?
Correct.
And you know, of course, that being in a wedding party is reserved for those special family members and friends, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
In your mind, was that a special honor?
Objection.
Is that what you thought when you were little? When you were in that?
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay.
And you were never interviewed by Canton Police Department in connection with this case, correct?
No.
How many times were you interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police in connection with this case?
Once.
And that was in July of 2023, correct?
I don't remember exactly when it was.
About a year and a half after the events in question. Is that right?
Around there.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection if you saw a copy of a report of that interview? Just to get the date?
Sure, yeah.
May I approach you on it?
Yes.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Take a look at paragraph 1. It's in the middle of the paragraph. If you'll just read that to yourself, please. You got that?
Yeah.
You saw the July 18 date,
Yes.
2023?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that that was the first time you were interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police?
Correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Who conducted that interview?
Michael Proctor and one of his partners, I believe. I don't remember.
Michael Proctor was the lead investigator that interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
That's the same Michael Proctor that appears on the far left of the photo of that wedding party, correct?
Correct.
Did you find that that interview, by the way, how long did the interview last? Michael Proctor.
I do not remember.
Do you remember testifying at one point that it was about 10 minutes?
No.
You testified at a different hearing, a different proceeding, not this proceeding, one other time, correct?
Correct.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
I need a foundational question first. I apologize. It's my fault, Mr. Albert. Do you believe it would refresh your recollection as to the length of that first interview if you were to see your testimony from a prior proceeding?
Yeah.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at this, and I'm going to direct your attention to line 18 and 19 of that transcript. Let me know when you've reviewed it. Is that yes?
Yeah.
May I?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
How long was that interview?
Which interview are you?
The interview that you had with Michael Proctor. That's what that question was about, that you just read.
I still don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall that it says that you testified? Question, how long
Objection.
did the interview last for?
Objection sustained where his memory is not refreshed. You can do this differently, you know that.
Did this refresh your recollection as to the question and answer, how you answered the question, how long that interview lasted?
Yes.
Okay. Did you say 10 minutes?
Yes.
So during the course of that 10-minute conversation that you had with Michael Proctor, what was the tone of that interview? You understand what I mean by tone?
I do not understand.
Okay. Was it hostile and accusatory?
Not that I remember, no.
Was it antagonistic or confrontational?
Can you use different words, please?
Sure. Was he being mean?
No.
Okay. He was being nice, right?
Professional, I'd say.
Yeah. Because you've known him almost your whole life, right?
Yes.
He was friendly and cordial,
Correct.
and the interview was comfortable.
Say it again.
The interview was comfortable.
Correct.
You didn't feel like you were on the hot seat.
No.
Did you find that the interview with Michael Proctor was consistent with the relationship that you've had with him your whole life? Meaning, he's always been friendly to you. He was just as friendly in that conversation.
Not really, no.
How is he different?
I'd say more professional.
Okay. Obviously, he was doing a job, correct?
Correct.
But when you walked in, you recognized him.
Yes.
He recognized you.
Yes.
You made natural greetings with one another, correct?
Correct.
He questioned you about a few things.
Correct.
He didn't look at your phone? He didn't ask to take your phone away from you?
No.
He didn't ask to seize your phone or seize any other physical items from you?
No.
You weren't asked to come down to the police station and sit in an interview room or an interrogation room, were you?
No.
Matter of fact, where did the conversation take place for those 10 minutes?
In the DA's office on Shawmut Road.
DA's office on Shawmut Road. Who else was there other than Trooper Proctor and his partner at the time, Trooper Clark?
Can you
Who
repeat?
else was there? Was it just Trooper Proctor, Michael Proctor, and Clark?
Yes.
Okay, so it was just the three of you.
Yes.
And Trooper Proctor was the one that was sort of leading the conversation.
Yes.
And when it was done, he said, "You're free to go."
Correct.
And he didn't take your phone.
Nope.
He didn't ask you to look at any text messages.
Nope.
He didn't look through your phone.
Nope.
He didn't take any screenshots or videos of your phone or the contents of your phone.
Nope.
Just let you walk out the door.
Correct.
Your Honor, may I publish the photo?
Why don't you come over here for just 1 second?
May I have that, please?
May I inquire you?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Albert, I want to shift gears for a quick second. On July 27th, you and your attorney appeared at a hearing in a separate proceeding, correct? Let me ask it a different way. You testified at a different proceeding, not this trial, but a different proceeding.
Correct.
Okay, you were put under oath, you appeared with your lawyer, you gave testimony, and that's part of what you looked at a second.
Correct.
Okay. But when you met with Michael Proctor, you did not feel the need to take an attorney with you. It was just you, Michael Proctor, and Investigator Clark, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained.
You were asked yesterday about certain texts with your cousin Allie, correct?
Correct.
Allie is obviously family,
Yes.
but she's more than family. She's also a good friend of yours.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, she's one of your best friends.
Correct.
And at your age, this is not meant to be pejorative, but we're different generations. At your age, your most convenient way of communicating is through text messages, correct?
Correct.
I mean, if you're going to grab a buddy and say, let's meet at the such and such ball field or whatever, you're going to text him probably, not call him.
Either or.
Okay. But texting is pretty common between you and your friends.
Yes.
Texting is certainly common between you and Alan. We've already seen evidence of that, right?
Yes.
And that's generally how you like to communicate with Alan.
I'd say so, yeah.
In fact, when you reached out to her for a ride, there were like 8 text messages back and forth just for a pickup, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
This is a copy of 81. I just want you to have that in front of you. Your Honor, with the court's permission, can we place Exhibit 81 on the screen?
Okay.
Your Honor, may I approach? I need to use the Elmar instead of...
Okay. Is there an objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
May I have that back?
I thought you meant approach over here. Do you want the Commonwealth to pull it? Mr. Jackson, do you want the Commonwealth to pull it up for you?
You'd be happy to, Your Honor. It's fine.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman.
May I approach the witness? you have a
Yes.
hard copy? Okay. You see what's displayed on the screen?
Yes.
It's only part of the text string, but does that look like it's an accurate representation of what you're looking at?
Yes.
And this is a series of texts on or about January 28th and 29th of 2022, is that right?
Yes.
And Mr. Albert, you needed something as simple as a ride. You were just asking Allie to give you a ride, is that right?
Yes.
And that's because you said that it's common for you guys to text back and forth. You just texted her, hey, you can get me now, is that right?
Yes.
And then you texted if it's easier, and then she said, okay, I'm dropping people off, and there was an exchange back and forth, is that right?
Yeah.
And there were at least 8 texts between the two of you, if you just count them up real quick, just about getting picked up.
Yeah.
But if you scroll down a little bit, after the end of that text string, that ends at 12:10 a.m. and it says okay. You see the next date?
Yes.
What date is that?
February 20th.
That's nearly a month later, correct?
Correct.
So there was a gap after January 29th, 2022, when you found out that a man had ended up dead on your uncle's lawn, and you and Allie did not text each other for a month, not once.
Objection.
Sustained is to that form. Ask it differently.
Isn't it true that on January 29th, later in the day, you found out about John O'Keefe and his condition, the fact that he died?
Objection.
Is that true? Did you find out that day?
Yes.
Okay.
So you were well aware of, thank you, we can take that down. You were well aware, Mr. Albert, that something very tragic had happened at your uncle's house, Brian Albert's house, right?
Correct.
And you were aware that you had been at your uncle's house that night, right?
Correct.
You're also aware that, according to you, Allie McCabe was the one that picked you up and took you from that location.
Correct.
And notwithstanding the fact of this tragedy, you and Allie didn't text each other one time for a month. Is that right?
I don't think that's correct.
So where are those texts?
We text on other platforms too. So I'd say other apps.
So is there a reason why you decided for the next month to just switch platforms to maybe Snapchat?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No reason.
Are you sure that you switched platforms?
I'd say so, yeah.
Why did you switch platforms?
We go back and forth, I'd say, between platforms texting.
You switched platforms because you know that Snapchat deletes all communications, correct?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Do you know that Snapchat has an auto-delete function on it?
If your app is set to that, yes.
Your app was set to that, wasn't it?
I do not remember that.
So again, your memory is failing you.
Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Once again, your memory is failing you. You just
Objection.
don't remember.
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Isn't it true, Mr. Albert, that you either switched platforms or deleted the texts because you did not want your text communications with Allie McCabe to be discovered?
Objection.
Overruled.
Is that right?
That's not true.
So where are those communications?
I do not know.
Can't produce them right now, can you?
I'm not sure.
So in the days, the hours, and days and weeks following the death of John O'Keefe, your communications with your best friend, Allie, the person who gave you a ride home that night, they're just gone. Right?
I'm not sure.
You testified that you provided Exhibit 81, what we were just looking at and you're still looking at in front of you, as a screenshot of your communications on January 29th, 2022 with Ally McCabe, correct? It was a screenshot.
You say that again? Sorry.
You provided that item as a screenshot, not as an actual text to law enforcement. Is that right?
I don't believe so.
Okay, do you know what a screenshot is?
Yes.
What's a screenshot?
When you take a picture on your phone.
That's a picture from your phone.
Yes.
Okay, so it is a screenshot.
Yes, it is a screenshot.
Okay, that's my question. When you met with Michael Proctor in that interview that lasted 10 minutes, Michael Proctor did not get the actual texts underlying that screenshot, did he?
No.
He never looked for those actual texts, did he?
No.
He never asked you for those actual texts, did he?
No.
And you never volunteered to give him those actual texts, did you?
I think I volunteered to, yeah.
On that day?
Oh, no, not on that day, no.
Not on that day. You know what a phone extraction is?
Not familiar.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a phone imaging or a phone extraction or a forensic extraction? Any of those words sound familiar?
Not really, no.
Michael Proctor never asked you, I think it's fair to say now, given that answer, Michael Proctor never asked you if he could do a phone extraction of your cell phone, did he?
No.
He never asked if he could take a forensic image of your phone, did he?
No.
Do you know what metadata is?
Nope.
You know the dates and times. You take a photo on your phone. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, it'll capture the date and time of the photo. You know that?
Objection.
I'll hear this answer and it may end your inquiry. Do you know that?
Pretty sure I do, yeah.
Have you ever heard of that data, the dates and times and geolocations? Have you ever heard of that referred to as metadata?
No.
Okay, so I'll just use the word date and time.
Okay.
You know that on your phone, if you pull up a text, you can go behind the text and see the date and time that it was actually sent or received, right?
Yeah.
But on a screenshot, you're left with just what's on the screen. You can't go behind the screenshot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You provided just the screenshot, ultimately, not the actual text, correct?
Correct.
But in September of 2023, Michael Proctor's partner, a man by the name of Yuri Buchnick, you know that name?
Yeah.
He contacted you and said he wanted to talk about your text messages, correct?
I don't remember.
Do you remember that you told Yuri Buchnick when he asked about the text messages, you did not have the screenshot anymore, you sent it to your father, Chris?
I don't remember that.
Do you recall telling Yuri Buchnick if he wanted to get the screenshot, you weren't going to give it to him, he'd have to get it from your dad?
Do not remember that.
You remember Trooper Buchnick agreeing with you and saying, sure, I'll just call your dad and get it from him?
Don't remember that.
You don't remember giving, you certainly don't remember ever giving Trooper Buchnick a copy of that screenshot.
No, I don't remember.
Because you didn't, did you?
I do not remember.
But you did give it to your dad, right?
I do not remember.
Do you remember anything about this case?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw it. To this day, you have never been required to present your phone to any law enforcement agent, have you?
Nope.
It was never imaged. It was never downloaded.
Nope.
You still have the same phone?
Yes.
If you had the actual texts on your phone, why did you provide law enforcement with just a screenshot?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
I'm not sure.
You were shown a photo yesterday of you in February of 2022 with your aunt. Remember that photo? Mr. Lally showed you that photo,
Correct.
and he said he wanted you to pay special attention to your face and hands and extremities. Asked you if there was anything unusual about that.
Yes.
You said no. In that photo, absolutely nothing unusual in February of 2022 about you, your face, your hands, your fists, nothing, right?
Correct.
I want to draw your attention to February 26th, same month, less than a month after the incident. You were at a place called Fenway Johnny's with your buddies, weren't you?
Correct.
Your Honor, I have two documents I'd like to mark for identification with the court's permission to show to Mr. Lally.
Okay.
One and two.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah, present these to the witness.
yes.
May we approach?
Yeah, I may as well see them. I'll end up seeing them anyway. So. So you're putting it in evidence before you display it?
Sure. May I approach one more time?
Yes.
Mr. Lally. Please do. Sir, do you recognize those two documents?
Yes.
Taking a look at the one that's got multiple documents on it, I don't want you to tell me what's on it, just tell me if you recognize the picture that's in the middle to the right.
Yes.
Okay, and then looking at the second document, which I believe is marked EE for identification at this point, does that appear to be a true and accurate enlargement of the first thumbnail?
Yes.
And those were taken on that photo was taken on February 26, 2022,
Yes.
at the place called, I think it's called Fenway Johnny's, right?
Correct.
Okay. May I publish the
Put it into evidence
sorry,
first.
Move for the admission of just EE.
So you need to get it to the court reporter.
May I, I'm sorry, just FF? May I approach?
Yes.
EE or FF?
Let me have both. FF.
Okay, give it to Madam Court Reporter to put the exhibit number on it.
The exhibit 85, Your Honor,
Yeah.
excuse me, FF.
May I?
Yes.
Do you see that photograph that's being displayed?
Yes.
Are you in that photograph?
Yes.
Which person are you?
In the middle.
And about what time of day was it? That's you in the middle?
Correct.
Okay. About what time of day was this taken?
Not sure.
Was it at an event of some sort, or just you were at a bar?
Just at a bar.
Okay. I want you to take a look at your right hand. Can you see from there clearly your right hand?
Yes.
What do you notice about your right hand?
It's cut up.
Your knuckles are injured, correct?
Correct.
Now, you didn't take this photo, did you?
Nope.
That photo was never on your phone. In other words, it wasn't a friend of yours that took the photo, correct?
No.
This was taken by an event staff member, is that right?
Correct.
It was later posted on social media, isn't that right?
Correct.
You could not access the metadata, you couldn't access the time and date of that photo, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean by
You
that.
couldn't manipulate the time or date this photo was taken?
No.
This photo is completely sort of out of your control, isn't that right?
Correct.
and it was controlled by the event staff at Fenway Johnny's.
Correct.
And on February 26th, less than a month after the incident at Fairview, that's what your right knuckles look like, correct?
Correct.
And this is a true and accurate depiction of your condition on or about February 26th, correct?
Correct.
How'd you get those injuries, Mr. Albert? We can analyze up.
I was at a party, a house party my senior year, and I remember it being icy out, and it was kind of like a steep hill of a driveway, and I was walking up the driveway, and I slipped down the driveway, and I tried to catch myself, but I had something in my left hand, so I had tried to brace myself with my right hand, and I ended up sliding a little bit down the driveway.
What'd you have in your left hand?
If I remember, it was either my phone or a beverage.
So according to you, you fell on ice and injured your knuckles, as we just saw in that photograph, right across the top of your knuckles.
Correct.
Okay. So you fell onto, what, pavement, asphalt?
Yes.
And you braced yourself when you fell, your entire body weight, by putting your right hand down in a fist, and you injured your right fist, just the top of the knuckles on your right fist when you fell down.
Correct.
Seriously?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You didn't put your palms down when you fell?
No.
You fell your entire body weight on your right fist and just injured the top portion of your knuckles, correct?
Correct.
Those injuries to your knuckles look an awful lot like the type of injuries that you would get in a
Objection,
fight.
Your Honor.
Sustained.
You ever been in a fight, sir?
Other than with my brothers, no.
You've never been in a fight
Nope.
your entire life.
Other than with my brothers, no.
Never hurt your knuckles before.
Not sure what you mean.
Never hurt your knuckles in a fight.
No.
And in this case, when you fell down on the asphalt, it was only the top 4 knuckles of your right hand, correct?
Correct.
You right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
You box?
Nope.
I'm sorry, you don't box?
Nope.
You've never boxed?
Never.
You ever practice boxing?
I've hit the bag for like cardio, but other than that, no.
When you hit the bag, is that considered boxing?
I wouldn't say so. Not
It's not jumping
really.
rope, is it, Mr. Albert?
No.
It's not doing curls.
Nope.
Not doing push-ups or calisthenics.
Nope.
It's hitting a bag, correct?
Yeah.
That's boxing, right?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah. When that photograph was taken at Fenway Johnny's, those knuckles looked like they had been re-injured from a prior injury. No?
No.
Just falling on the asphalt.
Correct.
Any other cuts or scrapes from that terrible fall on the asphalt?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll rephrase it. Any other cuts or scrapes or injuries from that fall?
I don't remember.
Just your right knuckles.
Yeah.
You said you've never been in a fight before.
Nope.
Did you post a video? You threatened that you're going to.
Objection, Your Honor.
Like to finish
The
question.
the objection sustained. I'll see you at sidebar on this. I'm familiar with this. You stay right where you are. We're going to see a couple of short videos, and then Mr. Jackson will ask you questions, and then Mr. Lally will ask you questions. Then I'll hear from the lawyers, and then I'll take a break, and you'll get a break before we go back.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Did you have a lawyer present?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right. So the first one, are they both on the same, they're separate?
I separated it.
All right, so let's mark them each for identification.
The one I'm holding in my right hand,
Bring it up.
I'll call Advantage. The one in my left hand, with the court's permission, I'll call this Bang Bang.
That will be HH for identification.
All right, thank you. All right, so play GG first, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yo, your advantage boys, I will beat all your asses. I promise you, I will fuck you all up. Pull up, bitch.
Okay, and the next one, please.
You're advantage, bro. Fuck you. Yeah, fuck you, pussy. Be cool, boy, you be knocked out. KO. Bang, bang.
Okay.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to take those two videos one at a time. I'm going to call one the Advantage voice and one the Bang Bang video. For purposes of my questioning, Mr. Albert, specifically regarding the Advantage voice video, did you recognize it?
Yes.
How did you recognize it?
What do you mean by
How do
that?
you recognize it? Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. When was that taken?
Maybe my sophomore year in high school, around.
Where were you?
I don't remember.
Okay,
Where-
so your sophomore year in high school, that's about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, around.
You indicated on cross-examination you've never been in a fight,
No,
indicating that you have no violent tendencies and no violent proclivities, correct?
nope.
What were you saying on that video?
That I would beat them up.
Did you say you would beat them up, or did you say, I will fuck you up?
I said I will F you up.
No, you didn't say, I will F you up. What did you actually say?
That I would fuck them up.
You also said something about beating somebody's ass, right?
Correct.
What did that mean?
That I would beat them up.
So when you said, I will fuck you up and I will beat your ass, was that a friendly invitation?
No,
That was a threat, correct?
I don't know if I would call it a threat.
Don't?
I'm not sure.
Someone walks up to you, I'm not going to do it, but if someone did, walked up to you and said, I will fuck you up, I will beat your ass, you wouldn't take that as a threat?
If they walked up to me, yeah.
But if they didn't walk up and just shouted it across the street and stood there and said, I will fuck you up, I will beat your ass, that's not a threat.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you are sure, sir.
All right, so that I'll strike at the Commonwealth standing up and objecting.
Were you threatening these Advantage boys, guys, whoever they are?
Yeah, kinda.
Were you threatening them with violence?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. In the second video, you said, fuck you a number of times. And then you said, KO, you said, pull up, KO, bang, bang. Right?
Correct.
Explain that to me.
I'm not sure, like, explain what I said.
Is that a threat?
Yeah,
Pull up, bitch. Right?
yeah.
Who are you talking to?
Those same Advantage kids.
Got it. So you're threatening them yet again a second time.
Yeah.
What does pull up mean?
Like, come by.
Yeah, meaning get over here. Right?
Yep.
Because when you do, I'm going to fuck you up. Right?
Yeah.
Meaning I'm going to fight you and I'm going to put you down. Correct?
Correct.
That was your threat to them.
Correct.
Can we get a time on this second one?
Of course. When was the second one, the bang bang threat made? Before or after the Advantage boys?
I'm not sure.
After?
Might have been this same night. I really don't know.
Well, you're dressed completely differently, so it's probably not the same night. You would agree with that?
Unless I could have changed my shirt. I do that often.
Okay. So you changed your shirt, and on the same night, you just decided to threaten the guys twice. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Was it around the same time frame?
Around you?
All right. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Albert, you do like to fight, don't you?
Nope.
The fact of the matter is, you showed up at another hearing, at another proceeding, to testify, and you showed up with busted knuckles then too, didn't you?
I do not remember.
July 27th, 2023, do you remember being at another hearing?
Yes.
Do you remember being questioned by some attorneys?
Yes.
Do you remember the question about the condition of your fist? Literally at the hearing?
Yeah.
It was obvious to the person that was questioning you that you had an injury to your fist, correct?
Objection.
Well, that's a student.
I'll rephrase that. My apologies, Your Honor. You were asked questions by the questioner about the condition, the physical condition of your fist, weren't you?
Correct.
And you claimed at that time, well, let me back up for a second and ask a different question. They were asking because you had open injuries on your right knuckles yet again, didn't you?
Correct.
You said, I must have been hitting a heavy bag, right?
Yeah.
Boxing again.
Hit in the bag, yeah.
Just working out, right?
Yep.
Didn't have any injuries on your left hand, though, did you?
No.
How many times have you hit a heavy bag?
I'm not sure.
How many times have you worked out with a heavy bag? That's an unfair question. I'll ask a better one. How many times have you worked out on a heavy bag?
I'm not sure.
When you work out on a heavy bag, you wrap your hands, don't you?
I do not know.
I see. So only your right hand gets injured over and over and over and over again, not your left hand,
I'm not sure.
even though you punch in the bag with both hands.
I'm not sure.
Yet again, you're right-handed, aren't you?
Yes.
So when you throw a haymaker, your hardest punch, that's with your right fist, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that right?
I would say they have equal. They're equal. I don't know. Not sure.
That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Albert, when those videos were made, you were a sophomore in high school, is that right?
Around that, yeah.
How old were you when you were a sophomore in high school?
16 years old.
And so that would have been at least a couple years before January of 2022, correct?
Yeah.
And as far as within those videos, well, as far as timing, so those videos were around the same time, both sort of same time period within your sophomore year,
Correct.
and relatively close to each other, is that correct?
Correct.
And who or what is an advantage?
It's a club hockey team.
And what, if any, relationship did you have with that club hockey team?
None.
And so, as far as what videos you were made and sending, were there any videos from that group that were made and sent to you?
Text messages.
And with regard to those text messages, generally speaking, what do they say?
Just name calling me and my friends, calling us like pussies and stuff like that.
So this was sort of a back and forth, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you even play hockey?
Nope.
And were these people around your age at that time?
Yeah.
And were they kids from the same town or different?
I don't even know where they're from.
Did you even really know these kids or what their names were or anything like that?
Not at all.
And was there ever any sort of physical fight or even a physical interaction with these other kids?
Never.
Did you ever even meet them face to face?
Never.
And with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, your neighbor who lived at the top of the street when you lived at Seven Meadows, you ever threaten him?
Never.
Did he ever threaten you?
Never.
Did you ever have any sort of back and forth exchange similar to what was up on the screen?
Never.
I have nothing further on
Okay.
Your Honor, may I, very briefly? You indicated, Mr. Albert, that this was your sophomore year in high school. But you were asked that exact same question under oath, the time frame of these videos in that other hearing, weren't you?
I believe so, yes.
You indicated under oath in that hearing that it looked like it was your junior or senior year in high school, correct?
Maybe, I'm not sure
Not sure.
exactly what I said.
Your senior year would have been what year, sir?
2022. 21, 22.
Same year John O'Keefe died.
Correct.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
That's all I have at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, I will hear you.
Your Honor, if we could make the argument outside the presence of the witness.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you to step out of. Okay. So let's wait a minute.
GG will be exhibit 86, Your Honor.
Thank you.
H will be exhibit 87.
Thank you.
May I, Mark?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Albert, before we took a break, you had mentioned that you've never been in a fight.
Correct.
You stand by that testimony?
Correct.
I'd like you to take a look at a video. It's been marked for, sorry, it's evidence number 86. I'm going to play this short video for you, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Yo, your revenge boys. I will beat all your asses. I promise you, I will fuck you all up. Pull up, bitch.
Man, lights. Did you recognize what was depicted in that video?
Yes.
Who was that?
Me.
Approximately when was that video taken?
Around my sophomore year in high school.
Sophomore year or senior year in high school?
Say around my sophomore year in high school.
Why do you say your sophomore year when you previously, well, let me ask it a different way. Did you previously testify at a different hearing back in July of 2023?
Yes.
You were asked about this video, weren't you?
Yes.
You were asked about another videos at the same time, correct?
Correct.
And in that hearing, you said you believe that was taken closer to your junior year or senior year in high school, correct?
Correct.
And that was under the oath,
Correct.
same oath that you took here.
Correct.
Closer in time to the events in question, and at that time you said your junior year or senior year in high school, correct?
Correct.
If it was your senior year in high school, what year would that have been?
21, 22. So 2021, 2022.
Going into 2022, correct?
Yeah.
The same year that John O'Keefe passed away.
Correct.
What did you mean by, I'm gonna fuck you up?
That I was going to beat them up.
Actually, you didn't say beat them up. You said, I'm gonna beat your ass, didn't you?
Yes.
That was a threat, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was a threat directed at some other individuals with whom you had some sort of a beef or a problem.
Correct.
And your resolution of that problem is, I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm gonna beat your ass, right?
Correct.
But you've never been in a fight.
Never.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, could we play evidence number 87?
Yes.
Thanks, bro. Fuck you. Fuck you, pussy. Good code, boy. You be knocked out. KO. Bang, bang.
What? May I inquire?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, who was that in that video?
Me.
Was that taken around the same time?
Yes.
You indicated you're a bitch, bro. Right?
Correct.
Was that a threat?
Yes.
More of an insult?
Yeah, more of an insult.
Calling someone out?
Yep.
Making them feel bad?
Yeah.
Prompting them to maybe fight?
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'll ask that question differently, Mr. Jackson.
Also called him a pussy, didn't you?
Correct.
Derogatory comment?
Correct.
And then you said, KO, bang bang, right?
Correct.
What's KO mean?
Knockout.
And what does bang bang mean?
I'm not sure, honestly.
You were just talking about knocking somebody out,
Correct.
and the bang bang just sort of flowed.
Exactly.
Was that a threat?
Yes.
And these threats that we've just talked about, that we've just seen, these are threats of physical violence, right?
Correct.
You're not threatening to hurt their feelings or send them a mean text, right?
No.
You're threatening to kick their ass, right?
Correct.
To get physical, right?
Yes.
To ball up your fists and beat the shit out of them.
Objection.
Can you answer that? Will you answer that, please?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Probably shouldn't. You were threatening to ball up your fist and beat the heck out of them.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were threatening to do?
Yes.
When you testified in a separate proceeding in July of 2023, you actually showed up for questioning live, correct?
Yes.
And you showed up at the time in July of 2023 with your knuckles busted up again, didn't you?
Correct.
And you were asked about your knuckles at that time, correct?
Correct.
And that time you said, oh no, I didn't fall down on black ice and slip and break my fall with my knuckles like you said here. You said, oh, I hit a heavy bag and busted my knuckles up on a heavy bag, right?
Correct.
So that heavy bag was you practicing boxing, right?
It was me getting cardio, yes.
Which is in a form of fighting,
In a form, yeah.
punching a bag.
Yep.
That's how you choose to do your cardio.
Sometimes.
And you're right-handed,
Yes.
and it was your right hand that was busted up.
Correct.
So when you throw your hardest punch, that's with your right hand, isn't it?
I'd say, I'm not sure. I'd say they're equal.
You're equally strong with both hands.
I'd say so.
So in your words, you could fuck somebody up with either hand, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
You answer that?
No, I'm not saying that.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, just before I begin, may we approach?
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Albert, just to be clear, Allie McCabe is not your cousin, correct?
Correct.
She's a friend of yours who you have relatives in common, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, when you and I and other individuals met prior to your testimony in this case, it was just one time, is that correct?
Correct.
And did we talk about something called sequestration?
Not that I remember, no.
Did we talk about having conversations with other witnesses while the case was pending or going on?
No.
Now, you testified when you were asked on cross-examination that you haven't had any conversations with any other witnesses, you haven't watched any coverage, you haven't done any of those things, correct?
Correct.
Was that at my instruction?
No.
Is that something that you've done at any point in time as far as talking to any other witnesses, including your parents?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about your family's relationship sort of with the Proctor family, correct?
Correct.
And taking the Proctor family as it was put as sort of an entity, what I'm going to ask you about is purely about Trooper Michael Proctor. How many times have you seen him in your life?
Maybe 5, 6 times.
And when about would those be, and what would the nature of those interactions be?
Other than when I got interviewed last time with Trooper Proctor and one of his partners. Other than that, I didn't see him for years, I want to say, since I was a young kid.
And when you were a young kid, just so we're clear, as far as young, how young is young?
Maybe saw him, I could have seen him at like a football game or something, but other than that, like pretty young, like 12, 11, 13 years old.
And whereabout, or what was the context in which you would have seen him? Was it you and him together, or was it a group setting, family? How would you have come into contact with him?
We've been over the grandmother's house a couple of times, but that's pretty much the only time I would see him.
Now, as far as the photograph that you were shown, as far as a wedding was concerned, you were a ring bearer in that wedding?
Correct.
And that was over 10 years ago, you said?
Yes.
But how old would you have been in that particular photograph or in that particular wedding?
If I had to guess, 8 or 9 maybe, around there.
Do you have any independent memory of that wedding or anything about that wedding?
None.
And as far as your family being close, again, sort of the Proctor family as an entity, is your family close with all of the Proctors, or is your family close with Courtney Proctor, or is your family close with Michael Proctor?
Mostly just like my aunt and my mom's friendly with Courtney, I'd say. Not really close with Michael.
There are some questions about the text messages that were up on the screen yesterday and up on the screen today, as far as sort of gap between January 28th and February, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, you indicated that there were other means by which you would have communicated with your friend Allie McCabe, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that consistent with, is that only Allie McCabe, or is that consistent with other friends that you would communicate with?
All my friends.
So you would sort of switch between call, text, Snapchat, other apps, things like that?
Exactly.
And the top of that screen was the text messages regarding picking you up from 34 Fairview on January 28th or 29th, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any idea when the last time was? The text before that? Was it days, weeks, months?
Not sure.
That period sort of,
Thank you.
that period of sort of January 28th into February, is that, how would you characterize that? Is that a normal gap between times that you would have text communications with Allie McCabe?
On iMessage, yeah, I would say so, yeah.
And from photographs that you were shown yesterday during your direct examination when I was asking you questions, those were photographs from February 11th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. McCabe was present at the house for your cousin Jack coming home from the Marine Corps as well?
Correct.
So you saw her on February 11th, correct?
Yes.
Now, the other photographs that you were shown today at some sort of bar or establishment, were those taken before or after the time at your uncle's house when your cousin Jack came home from the Marines?
After.
And after by days, weeks, if you know?
Weeks.
Now, with regard to questions you were asked about injuries to your hands, those are two separate incidents, one in February when you slipped on ice, is that correct?
Correct.
And one in July when you had struck a heavy bag, correct?
Correct.
And when you struck a heavy bag and got sort of injuries on your hands, were you wearing anything on your hand when you hit the heavy bag?
Nothing, nope.
Have you received any sort of training in boxing, taking classes, anything like that?
Never.
So it's something you do as part of your workout, correct?
Correct.
And you're an athlete, correct?
I'd like to say so, yeah.
You played sports in high school, correct?
Yeah.
And at least at the beginning of college, you played sports in college, correct?
Correct.
Now, you were asked about things about that February 26th photo at, I forget, it was Fenway Johnny's, is that where it was?
Correct.
And you were asked about control over the photograph, correct?
Say that again?
You were asked different questions about your control over what you could do or alter with respect to the photograph, correct?
Yes, correct.
Ultimately, though, you were in control about whether or not you were photographed, correct?
Yes.
Nobody forced you to go up and pose with your friends or anything like that?
Nope.
Now, as far as those videos that you were just shown, how old were you?
Around 16, I'd say around 16 years old.
So you believe it was sometime in your sophomore year of high school?
Yes, that's what I believe.
And so that would have been a couple years before your senior year of high school, which you were in January 2022, correct?
Correct.
And this video, as far as, do you recall who you were referencing in those videos?
An advantage club hockey team.
So a club hockey team, were they about the same age as you?
Yes.
And did you know any of those people?
Nope.
And were they, the club hockey team, was that within the same town as you were?
I'm not sure.
Did you play hockey
Nope.
at any point in time in high school?
Never.
And was this just you sending them videos, or was this some sort of argument or something going back and forth?
It was an argument going back and forth.
So what, if anything, did you or any of your friends receive in regard to from that club hockey team?
We received texts like being name called, like calling pussies and words like that.
So do you recall which came first, as far as the text or the video?
I do not recall.
But similar, the text message that you received from this club hockey team, were they similar in nature to the videos that you posted?
Correct.
Do you recall what the argument was about with this other group of kids from this club hockey team?
Yeah, it was the girls in our friend group, a couple of the girls in our friend group, like hung out with them a few times. So like all my guy friends got a little salty about it. So that's why we kind of sent videos back and forth.
So you were teenage kids arguing about girls, correct?
Exactly.
And at any point in time, did your friend group and this club hockey team ever meet up at all?
Never.
Any sort of physical altercation or anything like that?
Nope.
And you indicated that you've never really been in a fight except for with your brothers, correct?
Correct.
And when you would get in a fight with your brothers, how old were you then?
Younger, I'd say. Yeah, younger.
Younger, like as young as you were when you were ring bearer in somebody's wedding?
Yeah.
Now, with regard to John O'Keefe, your neighbor who lived a couple doors down, did you ever threaten John O'Keefe?
Never.
John O'Keefe ever threaten you?
Never.
Did you ever get in an argument about girls?
Nope.
Any animus or any conflict that you can recall ever between yourself and Mr. O'Keefe?
Never.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination regarding whether or not you've been thinking about this case for the last 2.5 years. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you indicated that you had not, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Sorry.
And you had indicated in your testimony in response to that questioning, essentially not until people were writing things about you on the internet, correct? Correct. Can you expound upon that? Can you explain to the jury sort of when that occurred and what were the things that were being written about you on the internet?
I'd say about a little over a year it started when people on Twitter, Instagram, social media were just coming at my family, calling us murderers, harassing us, showing up to our doorsteps, our sports games. I mean, we couldn't leave the house without people taking pictures of us, and it's very terrible.
And how long has that gone on for?
The past year and change, a couple months. Past year and a couple months, I'd say.
To be clear, that night that you were at 34 Fairview Road at your uncle's house, January 28th and the 29th, At any point in time, did you see John O'Keefe at that house, come into that house, around that house, at any point in time that you were there?
Never.
Nothing further.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Albert, you're all set.